Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Towards HCV Elimination, a Case Study of Taiwan. I am Michelle Ashton of LabRoots, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Today's educational web seminar is presented by LabRoots and brought to you by Abbott Molecular. To learn more about our sponsor, please visit www.abbott.com. Let's get started. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that this event is interactive. We encourage you to participate by submitting as many questions as you want at any time you want during the presentation. To do so, simply type them into the Ask Question box and click Send. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation. If you have trouble seeing or hearing the presentation, click on the Support tab found at the top right of the presentation window, or report your problem by clicking on the Ask a Question box located on the far left of your screen. This presentation is educational and thus offers continuing education credits. Please click on the Continuing Education Credits tab located at the top right of the presentation window and follow the process to obtain your credits. I now present today's speaker, Dr. Ming-Lung, Distinguished Professor at Kaohsiung Medical University in Kaohsiung, Taiwan, and Adjunct Professor at the College of Biological Science and Technology at the National Chiao-Tung University. For a complete biography on our speaker, please visit the Biography tab at the top of your screen. Professor Yu, you may now begin your presentation.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ming-Lung from Kaohsiung Medical University. Today, I would like to share the experience of the case study in Taiwan toward hepatitis C virus elimination. Globally, if you estimate about 71 million people are currently living with hepatitis C virus, and more than half of the people live in the Asia Pacific, and about 10% of the 71 million people living with the virus are resided in the Southeast Asia. However, barely only 1% of the patient population is aware that they have the disease. It means that there is ultimate lack of awareness in the Asia Pacific. The World Health Organization, the WHO, announced that eliminated viral hepatitis should be achieved by 2030 because we have to look the hepatitis as a public health issue. So WHO set a goal in reducing 90% of new infections and 65% of unmet deaths from viral hepatitis by 2030. And to achieve the goal by 2030, there are three major strategies we have to implement, including the prevention, the testing, and the treatment. In terms of 100% of blood donations should be screened, and 90% or more of the TWID should be assessed to self-injection to prevent the new hepatitis infections. And we have to test 90% or more of the people with viral hepatitis to diagnose the hepatitis B and C. And finally, we had to reach 80% or more of the eligible patients with Hep B or Hep C treated. However, it is a long way to achieve the goal by 2030. Therefore, the WHO set another midterm goal by 2020 to achieve 30 to 50% of HCV population being diagnosed, 50 to 70% of the eligible patients begin treatment, and 90% or more of the patients should be treated and cured. Therefore, to achieve the midterm goal by 2020 in Asia Pacific, maybe countries should set a strategy, a so-called Nation Action Plan, and initiate the Nation Action Plan by a national viral hepatitis surveillance program, and also in combination with strategy to stop the new infections in terms of injection policy in healthcare settings and the harm reduction program to assess up to 70% or more of the person who inject drugs in each country. However, to reach the WHO goal by 2030, we have to know about what is the gap and how to bridge the gap. This is an estimation by at 2015 by WHO. As you can see, at the times there are huge gaps in the children rates, just only around 8% of the patients have been treated, and also another huge gap in the diagnosis rates. Just only 20% of the patients have been diagnosed. Therefore, to achieve the goal, we have to overcome and to bridge the gap in this clinical setting. So the first step is that we have to know what is the barrier for the hepatitis testing. In this first one, you can see there are many main barriers for viral hepatitis testing, including the lack of public acknowledgement and the lack of awareness among the healthcare providers, the lack of easy-to-access testing, and people fear of stigmata and discrimination, and also the impact of the out-of-pocket cost. So to bridge the gap, the WHO recommends we have to raise the disease awareness not only in public, but also in the healthcare provider, and to make the test more accessible, and finally to remove the cost barriers for viral hepatitis testing as well as for the children cost. Therefore, the 2019 World Hepatitis Day campaign, the WHO advocates find the mission meanings to raise the disease awareness in not only the public, but also the healthcare provider. And then we have to scale up the HCV program, and initially is make the diagnosis more accessible. There are two ways to diagnose the hepatitis C virus in patients. The first one is patient-centered decentralized testing. It means that we can test the sample locally without to send the sample to the central laboratory. By using the point-of-care platform, such as the Russia, such as the dry blood spot collecting, we just collect the saliva or collect the dry blood spots. We can diagnose the patient with or without anti-HCV antibody, and even with or without the HCV RNA. Another is provide the accurate and affordable diagnosis tool, and also integrate into the centralized testing with the HCV antibody testing and the HCV nucleic acid testing. And for this strategy, we can collect the blood in large amounts and send the blood back to the central lab testing and test the anti-HCV antibody. If the HCV antibody is positive, and then test the HCV RNA with or without HCV genotype. And finally, bridging the gap, the strategy to bridge the gap is to remove the cost barrier, not only the viral testing, but also the HCV therapy. To reduce the cost of viral testing, we can integrate the surveillance program into the other so-called multi-purpose surveillance programs, such as HIV, the blood sugar, the blood lipids, and as well as the other public health surveillance, so that we can save cost. And for the affordable HCV therapy, it's very useful to issue the national power, such as the national reimbursements, and negotiate with the industry, and we can reduce the cost of HCV therapy and even cover all the costs by the national budget. Therefore, we can provide the free very affordable HCV therapy for the HCV patients. So the European Association for the Study of Liver recommends a simplification on the HCV diagnosis and treatment in 2018. This figure illustrates the simplification of the HCV screening, treatment, and assessment. So far, we just screen the patient with anti-HCV antibody, and if the patient positive for the serum anti-HCV antibody, we can confirm the patients with or without active infection by using the HCV nucleic acid testing with or without baseline viral testing, because currently most of the treatment algorithm did not use the baseline viral as a treatment duration strategy. So if the patient are positive for HCV, we can initiate the treatment with a very simple dosing, shorter treatment duration regimen, so-called the direct viral regimen, the DAA regimen, with the pan-genotypic DAA such as sulfosvir plus edipasvir, sulfosvir plus velpatasvir, ogolipapavir plus pirentavir, with or without ribavirin 8 to 12 weeks, and just assess the treatment efficacy 12 or 24 weeks after end of the DAA therapy. So it's a very simple strategy: screening, confirmation, treat, and assessment. Therefore, using the simplification strategy, we are able to achieve the HCV elimination by 2030. By currently, we can implement the HCV elimination program. It is because the evolutional advance in the antiviral regimen in the tested 30 years. As we all know, without the antiviral therapy, there are just only 15 to 25% of patients could spontaneously recover from the HCV infections, and is used by using the first approved antiviral agents, the interferon, in early 90s. We can just only cure 9% to 30% of our patients with interferon or peg-interferon therapy, and the treatment efficacy further improved to 50 to 80% by using the pegylated interferon plus ribavirin 24 to 48 weeks. And currently, the new breakthrough derivative antiviral agents, just only 8 to 12 weeks, with the newly introduced DAA therapy, you can cure up to 95% of patients with a very high safety profile. So that's why you are currently can implement the so-called the global HCV elimination program. So today I would like to show you a nationwide investigation of real-world community effectiveness in HCV treatment and the project of the Micro-Elimination for policymaking toward the HCV elimination by 2025 in Taiwan. And this program is funded by the Taiwan Liver Research Foundation. It's a non-profit and non-government organizations in collaboration with Kaohsiung Medical University and the Kaohsiung Medical University affiliated healthcare system. The background is that the HCV infection has emerging from the interferon-based therapy to interferon-free direct antiviral therapy since 2013. And to surpass the goal of HCV elimination by 2030, set by the WHO, we conducted several nationwide investigations for policymaking to eliminate the virus in Taiwan and HCV hyperendemic area. Therefore, we have a three steps to complete the action. The first one is to know what we are in HCV control, and then to realize what cost it is worth to cure a patient in Taiwan, and finally to set the strategy on how it can be done to eliminate the virus in Taiwan. The first step is to know where we are in HCV control. To know where we are in HCV control, we construct a model to evaluate the rate of disease diagnosis, awareness, accessibility, treatment rate, and clinical efficacy of HCV elimination label. As you can see in the right side of the table, the map of Taiwan, the age-status adjusted anti-HCV clearance rate was around 3.3%. It means that around 750,000 people have been infected with the virus, and currently around 500,000 people are currently infected with the virus. It is because there are many hyper-HCV endemic areas in the south and west coast of Taiwan. In some countries, the HCV clearance rate is as high as 30%. But when looking at the treatment rate, successful treatment rates of pegylated interferon plus ribavirin, you can see is 24 weeks of the peg riba, we can cure 89% of genotype 2 patients and 74% of genotype 1 patients. And because of the genotype distribution in Taiwan is around half of with 1 and 2 genotypes, so we estimate the overall SVR rate was around 90%, 80% for the HCV patients in Taiwan in the past 20 years. But if you look at the community effectiveness, we find that we just only cure around 11% of our patients. This model is constructed by the NGO and our hospital. We found that there are only 49% of the patients have HCV awareness, and only 19% of patients have been assessed of their HCV disease in the clinic, and only 13% of the patients have been treated with pegylated interferon, and only 11% of the patients have been cured. Even the clinical efficacy was as high as 80%. And why so many patients have not been treated? It is because that a lot of patients were ineligible to the peg interferon plus ribavirin, and one of the patients fear of adverse events, and another 1 in 6 of patients had no insurance cover, and 10% of patients have no therapy awareness. So to achieve the goal of HCV elimination by 2030, we will have to increase the rate of disease diagnosis, awareness, accessibility, and introduce new antiviral with high cure rates and safety profile. We are lucky that since 2016, we have almost all of the available DAA regimen. So here I would like to introduce you briefly all of the licensed DAA regimen in the treatment of hepatitis C currently. The first one is 24 weeks of asunaprevir and protein inhibitor plus dalacivir and enzyme inhibitor in the treatment of genotype 1B patients. In the global and Japanese phase 3 trial, you can see the 24 weeks regimen for genotype 1B could cure this patient population with an SVR rate at around 85%. But if you're looking at for the patient with or without baseline release cells association substitution at the uninspired regions, you can see if the patient carry uninspired ROS at L31 or 193, the 24 weeks of asunaprevir plus dalacivir could just only cure around 40% of the patient. But if the patient had no ROS, the SVR rate could achieve as high as 94%. Therefore, to treat the patient of genotype 1B with this regimen, we have to test the NS virus before we prescribe the regimen to avoid the treatment failure. The second regimen is Ataparib and a protease inhibitor boosted by return number in combination with umbitazole and NS-virus inhibitor with or without darsaparib is a NS-virus non-nuclear with or without ribavirin for genotype 1 and 4. As you can see in the left side two bars, 12 weeks of the Pro-D regimen with ribavirin could cure around 95% of the patients with or without cirrhosis. But if you look at the most difficult to cure populations, the genotype 1A prior non-responder to prior interferon and had baseline cirrhosis, 12 weeks regimen just only can cure 80% compared to 93% of the SBR rate if we extending the treatment duration to 24 weeks. Now for the easy to cure population for the genotype 1B, the Pro-D regimen without the ribavirin to cure all the genotype 1B patients without the ribavirin with an SVR rate at 99%. And furthermore, for the genotype 1, genotype 4 patients, the 2D regimen Ataparib boosted by return number in combination with umbitazole plus ribavirin without the darsaparib could also cure around 100% of genotype 4 patients. However, the first two regimens, the Pro-D regimen and the darsaparib 24 weeks for genotype 1B, are currently not the first choice because of the relatively low treatment efficacy and the high peer burden and the high drug interaction between the DDI and the comorbidity. Therefore, currently, these two regimens are really being prescribed in the real world. And the third regimen is a combination of second generation of protease inhibitor plus NS-virus inhibitor with LabRoots and Biography. The CH phase 3 program demonstrates the 12 weeks regimen could cure around 95% of the genotype 1 and 4 patients, however treatment naive or experienced, either cirrhotic or non-cirrhotic. Either if the patients genotype 1A with baseline NS-virus ROS, the treatment efficacy with 12-week regimen just only around 50%. Therefore, for this patient population, we have to extend the regimen from 12 weeks to 16 weeks and adding the ribavirin to ensure the SBR rate. And also for the treatment experienced patients of genotype 4, if the patient are prior non-responder, prior biologic failure, we also have to add in the ribavirin to ensure the treatment efficacy if you choose Biography and Biography as the DA regimen. And the first DA regimen is the mostly new DA regimen is second generation of protease inhibitor, Ataparib, and the second generation of NS-virus inhibitor, Hemodialysis. With those combinations, 3 tablets a day, with only 8 weeks of regimen, we can cure around 99% of all of the genotype without cirrhosis. It's very powerful regimen. And if the patient have a compensated cirrhosis, but it is treatment naive, again, only 8 weeks of the GLP can cure all of the genotype of this patient population with SVR rate at 98%. Even the very difficult to cure population, the genotype 3 treatment naive cirrhotic patients, we can cure 95% of the patients with just only 8 weeks regimen. But for the treatment experienced patient with compensated cirrhosis, 12 weeks of regimen could also cure around 99%. Therefore, for treatment experienced compensated cirrhosis, we have to apply a 12 weeks regimen of GP to ensure the treatment efficacy. And for the treatment experienced however non-cirrhotic or cirrhotic patients with genotype 3, the optimal regimen is 16 weeks of GP with an SVR rate at 96%. And so the fifth DA regimen is so-called sulfosphor-based therapy. Is an NS5A nuke, the nucleotide analog. The nucleotide analog-based therapy, sulfosphor plus ledipasvir and NS5A inhibitor, for 12 weeks can cure the genotype 1 patients is a very high SBR rate around 95%. The treatment naive or experienced. Either for the very difficult to cure population, for the interval experienced cirrhotic genotype 1 patients, the optimal treatment regimen is 12 weeks sulfosphor plus ledipasvir, or adding the ribavirin and maintain the 12 weeks regimen. Therefore, you can ensure the treatment efficacy at 96% or more. But for the easy to cure population, the genotype 1 with low baseline viral, the low 6 million IU per mil, just only 8 weeks or so lady could cure more than 95% of patient population. And later on, this regimen is also approved for the treatment of genotype 2, which were approved in Taiwan and Japan, and also for the genotype 4, 5, and 6, which have been approved in all over around the world. And the last regimen is, that's a DAA regimen, is sulfosphor plus with patosvir fixed dose combination, 1 tablet a day for 12 weeks. This is a sulfosphor-based therapy plus a second generation of NS5A inhibitor. And the Astra phase 3 program, the Astra 1 to 3, demonstrate a very high treatment efficacy of 12 weeks regimen with SBR12 rates of 99% in general population. And currently, it's a widely used DA regimen for all other genotypes. And even for the very special populations, the Solvir also can cure the patient with very high SBR12 rates. For example, the Astra 4 treating the patient with hepatitis compensation for all the genotypes, the SBR rate could achieve 94% by adding the ribavirin to the Solvir. And therefore, the Solvir plus ribavirin for 12 weeks, or Sol-Lady plus ribavirin for 12 weeks, or sulfosphor plus dalacivir for 12 weeks, plus ribavirin are currently indicated in the treatment of hepatitis compensation. But for all the regimen with protease inhibitor, it is contraindicated in the treatment of the patient with hepatitis compensation. And also, this regimen has a high treatment efficacy for the HIV, HCV co-infection in Astra 5, 95%, and post-liver transplantations, patients with SBR rate at 96%, and for the children or adolescents with a SBR rate of 92 and 95%. And more recently, just this regimen just approved in the treatment of patients with end-stage renal disease and hemodialysis with this high safety profile and high safety and the high treatment efficacy at 95%. So, ladies and gentlemen, currently we have the many interferon PDA regimens with very high treatment efficacy, simple dosing, and very short treatment duration, only 8 to 12 weeks, and high safety profile. We just can see a light at the end of the tunnel. That is a hope to cure every HCV infection. However, there are some impact of the current available DAA regimen. The first one is the huge budget impact. It is because at the time of the new DAA introduction, the costs are very high. To cure a patient, you have to pay around $11,000 to $80,000 US. And the second impact is the warehouse patient pool. They will have an impact on professional manpower because A lot of patients wait for the new DA regimen, and will come to the clinic at the same time and impact the professional manpower. Therefore, we have to overcome the barrier. We have to evaluate the cost effectiveness of the antiviral, and also to prioritizing our patient to receive the DAA regimen. So, therefore, the second steps of our program is to determine what cost it is worth to cure a patient in Taiwan. Therefore, you implement this study to evaluate the cost effectiveness of the test for interferon plus ribavirin for HCV by linking a real-world cohort to the national health insurance database as a reference of the cost for policymakers. Near 2,000 HCV patients treated with peg interferon plus ribavirin were evaluated, and we found that to successfully cure an HCV genotype 1 patient, they have to pay around $8,300 in naive patients and doubling in the experienced patients. And to cure the genotype 2 patients, we have to pay around $4,600 for naive patients, and also around the doubling of the cost in the experienced genotype 2 patients. So after adjustment the price and the genotype distribution, we estimate the optimal treatment cost for successful treatment with peg-riba in the past is around $8,050. Therefore, the National Health Insurance Administration of Taiwan approved to reimburse a fixed cost of US dollars $8,300 for successful treatments with any DA regimen for HCV patients with any condition in 2016. So right now we can overcome the budget impact because we can cost down the DA regimen for HCV achieved from around the 10,000 to 80,000 to only $8,003. However, if we estimate the total budget, it's very terrible budget impact because around 500,000 of the HCV patients in Taiwan, and the total budget will around $4 billion. Therefore, we have to develop a strategy of prioritization of DA therapy in Taiwan. So the first step in this project is to realize what it can be done to eliminate the HCV, and it is adjusted by the patient characteristic. Because of hepatocellular carcinoma is the most risky complication of HCV. So the most optimal goal of the HCV treatment is to reduce or to prevent the development of hepatocellular carcinoma. And how about the factors we are associated with the HCC of the sustained biologic response? Based on the prior study, we find there are two groups of risk factors. The first one is factors unchangeable or fluctuating, such as gender, diabetes, AP label, LT label, or gamma G label. And the second group of risk is the factors we are worsening with time. We call it time-degenerative factors. It's age and hepatic fibrosis. Therefore, we conducted a study of around 1,200 patients successfully treated by peg-riba and linked to the Nation Cancer Registry, and compare the risk of hepatocellular carcinoma between the patient with and without successful viral eradications. As you can see, this is the left side figure. It shows that there are no difference between the patient with or without successful antiviral therapy if the patient in the risk of hepatocellular carcinoma if the patient just only had very mild fibrosis score 0 and 1. But for the patient with significant or advanced even cirrhotic fibrosis, achievement of SVR could reduce the risk of hepatocellular carcinoma remarkably. And by looking at the effect of age, similar situation was also observed for patients of less than 40 years old. Achieving SVR will no impact on the hepatocellular carcinoma risk. But for the patient with age more than 40 years, achieving an SVR could reduce the risk of hepatocellular carcinoma remarkably. Therefore, our study demonstrates we have to treat the patient with advanced fibrosis or age patients as early as possible to avoid the development of hepatocellular carcinoma. Therefore, the National Health Insurance of Taiwan approved to reimburse the DA regimen for qualified patients with fibrosis stage 3 and 4 in 2016. The so-called the prioritization of DA therapy based on the fibrosis status. So since 2017, the government of Taiwan started to reimburse the DA. The first year budget is $75 million, and 3 DA regimens were approved to prescribe with target population of 9,000 patients, only patients with HCV RNA and had a fibrosis score 3 or 4 could be reimbursed. And in the first step, just only treatment experienced patients, and later on, also treatment patients could be reimbursed. And in the second years, the 2018, the budget increased from 75 million to 140 million, and the 2 more DA regimens were reimbursed, including the RIBA, SOB-Lady, and the GB for all of the genotype, with target population of 70,500 patients with the same reimbursed criteria, fibrosis score 3 and 4, treatment experience, and HCV viremia. And in this year, 2019, the DA budget further increased to $220 million with a target population of 35,000 patients, and broaden the reimbursement criteria just only with the criteria just only anti-HCV positive for 6 months and HCV RNA positive. And this is the chip number by the reimbursements of the DA in the past 3 years. The first year is around 9,500. The second year is 19,500 patients, and in this year it's estimated around 43,000 patients have been treated, and the overall SVR rate was very high, at 97.5%, which is all of the DA available in Taiwan. However, if we just reimburse the treatment, if we just increase the recommendation and acceptance rates of antiviral therapy, as the current situation, we just only can increase the cure population from 10% to 20%. It means that we increase the recommendation and acceptance rate from 70% to 100% because of all the patients will receive a DA therapy, and we hypothesize that around 100% of all the patients receiving DA will be cured. We just only can cure 20% of our patient population. In the case we have no DA, if we can increase the disease awareness and increase the rate of accessibility to 16%, we also can cure 20% of our patient population without the DA. And we even can cure more of the patient to 32% if we can increase the rate of diagnosis and accessibility to 75%. So if we can, in combination with the increased rates of diagnosis and accessibility to 75% and introducing the new DA regimen, we can expect to cure more than half of the patients in the future. Therefore, the obstacle to global HCV elimination is the disease diagnosis and the awareness rates and the disease accessibility rate in the future. However, it's very difficult to perform the nationwide elimination program at the same time because the manpower due to the budget impact. So the alternative way to achieve the HCV elimination is to implement micro-elimination in certain population. For this population who is feasible, feasible to approach in a short to medium term, we have the real target, predictable time and cost. We can prevent a new or reinfection, and finally, we can generate a template in defined population to serve as a role model for nation program. This is the concept of so-called micro-elimination. So today I would like to share you two examples of micro-elimination executed in southern Taiwan. The first one is to introduce a project of micro-elimination in HCV hyperendemic counties in southern Taiwan. And the target population is so-called the Zhuguang HCV hyperendemic area. In our previous study, we found that the Zhuguang County have a very high HCV prevalence rate of around 20%, but very low disease awareness, only 27%, and eventually only around 5% of the patients have been treated with the peg-interferon plasma. And when we review the gap in each cascade of the HCV treatment, we find that there are huge gap in the diagnosis, huge gap in the accessibility, and a huge gap in the accessibility. Therefore, we firstly target two villages, the village 1 and village 2, with a population of around 4,500, and conducted a program to bridge the gap between each HCV care cascade. We call it a comprehensive micro-elimination of HCV infection in hyperendemic village in Taiwan, the COMPACT campaign. We apply a people-centered outreach healthcare system targeting this high-risk group. We organize, set up an outreach hepatitis screening team and perform the door-by-door screen in the HCV hyperendemic area, and send the blood testing back to the central laboratory and find out the HCV infected patients and perform the ultrasound sonography as well as a fiber scan in the community, and then refer the patients who are eligible for treatment to the HCV treater. And the secondary step, we set up an outreach HCV treater team locally. It consists of hepatologists, nurses, technicians, and pharmacists in the community. Therefore, the patient want to be referred to the medical center far away from the community to increase the accessibility for HCV treatment. So this is the advocate to the program and also the newspaper of the HCV outreach screening team and treater team, started in March in this year. So this is the initial report. As you can see, during the past 15 years, we have screened around 12,000 residents here in Zhuguang, and around 23% of the residents have been exposed with the virus. It means that anti-HCV positive, and 70% of the patients were HCV viremic, but only 27% have disease awareness, and only 11% have been assessed to a HCV doctor, and only 5% of the patients have been treated in this hyperendemic area. And in this year, from January to June, we implement our COMPACT team and have screened around 2,000 resident in the two villages, and he found that the anti-HCV transfer remained also high at 28%, and the HCV viral rate remained high at 70%. But the disease awareness rate increased a little bit from 27% to 59%, and the disease accelerate increased from 11% to 14.8%, and the cure rates increased from 5% to 24% because of the newly implementation of national reimbursement system of nation health programs in Taiwan. However, even with the program, you can see there's still a very high gap. Around the 75% of the patients need to be treated. Therefore, we perform the referral, link the patient to the local care treater team in 2019, and so far there are 234 patients have been linked to the care team, and 97% agree and assess the care team, and 75% of the patients have been initiated with the DA treatment, and 71% of the patients have completed DA therapy. And we hope we can achieve the micro-elimination by the end of 2020 next year. And the second example is the micro-elimination program for the special population of end-stage renal disease patient population who are under maintenance hemodialysis. Why you treat this patient population so as the first priority? Because this patient population are at a higher risk of all-cause mortality and the liver-related mortality if they are infected with the virus. And also, the hemodialysis procedure is high risk of HCV transfusion. So the second reason to treat this patient population is to implement the concept of treatment as prevention in the high-risk groups. And before the DA era, it has been only around 1 to 2% of the patients have been cured by taking the interferon plus ribavirin because very high adverse events, and many patients are ineligible or contraindicated to the taking interferon plus ribavirin. So we decided to implement the second program for micro-elimination in this patient population. And in this patient population, it's very easy to conduct a comprehensive surveillance. So the concept of this patient population with the goal of micro-elimination is that if we can provide the hours on-site surveillance and treatment, we can facilitate the link to care of this patient population and treat the patient at the same time to prevent further infection to the other individuals. So we call this a model for HCV micro-elimination as ERASI team. We sent the assess team, treater teams to all of the hemodialysis center around the southern part of the Taiwan. So the patient, they can receive the screening, the assessment, the treatment, and the follow-up in the hemodialysis room. They don't need to visit the liver clinic. So this is the example that we collaborate with 22 hemodialysis centers in southern Taiwan. And actually, in 2012, we had assessed a comprehensive screening in this patient population. At the time, around 70% of the hemodialysis patients were seropositive for anti-HCV, and 70% of these anti-HCV seropositive patients were HCV viremia. But only 1% of the HCV viremia patients had been successfully treated with taking interferon in 2012. And early in this year, we performed the second time of comprehensive screening of around 2,300 patients. The anti-HCV first rate decreased a little bit from 70% to 14%. And the HCV rate among the anti-HCV seropositive patients also decreased from 75% to 56%. It is because around 21% of the patients have been successfully treated with the DA regimen reimbursed by the government. But however, you can see it's still a higher proportion of patients need to be treated in this patient population, around 80%. So we conduct the first test run in the hemodialysis room in Kaohsiung Medical University. We have a baseline screening, sampling, and the baseline ultrasound sonography, and the baseline dosing and baseline follow-up. All of the HCV screening, assessment, treatment, and follow-up are performed in hemodialysis centers. And in this example of all of the 15 HCV variant patients under the hemodialysis center are being treated with currently available the relative viral Biography or Biography based on the viral genotype at the same time. And 6 months later, we find that all of the patients achieve SVR12. So what we can say that we cure all of the HCV patients in this hemodialysis center, and we achieve the goal of from ESRD to no-C hemodialysis. That means that in this hemodialysis center, you no more need to separate the HCV patients from the others. So think about in your countries how to implement micro-elimination to spatial population, because it's a path to global elimination of hepatitis C virus. First all, target population and the major gap of each HCV care cascade, and set the strategy to minimize the gap, and most importantly, collaborate with GO and NGO and look for resource and advocate to public. The most important step is just to do it. And so far, there are many spatial populations have been successfully treated as an example of micro-elimination, such as a hemophilic patient, the prison, the person who inject drug, the man have sex with man, and the many other spatial populations. Finally, I would like to introduce the national program of HCV control in Taiwan. Since 2016, the Taiwan government decided to set up the National HCV Program Office to establish the strategy, to implement the strategy, and to advocate the strategy for HCV elimination, as so-called at the national level. So the first step is to prevent the new HCV infection. The most powerful newest prevention of new HCV infection is public education program. For example, the Taiwan Liver Research Foundation found a series of education program in the hyperendemic area, and we found that implementing the education program could reduce the incidence and the prevalence of the HCV infections significantly during the past 12 years. And the second strategy is to increase the rate of diagnosis and awareness. To achieve the goal, we have not only to advocate to use the power by the government, we also have to integrate the power of non-governmental organization by integrate the program to multi-purpose community surveillance. And also, the nation has always decided to provide a free check-up for hepatitis B and hepatitis C markers for adults in Taiwan with age more than 45 years old. It's a very powerful strategy to encourage the so-called baby boom generation to receive the viral hepatitis screening at national level. And the third the third strategy to increase the accessibility. So far, the government allow the health care provider to provide point of care service with specialized professionals in rural areas and also in the community to increase the link to care rate of patients with HCV to receive the DA regimen. And finally, the strategy is to scale up the treatment uptake by increasing the budget and by introducing the one-size-fits-all regimens with high treatment efficacy and the high safety profile. Therefore, Taiwan, is expecting that we can achieve the goal of HCV elimination by 2025 with the 4-step strategy in HCV elimination. So, ladies and gentlemen, how about the next step of your country to think about the micro-elimination? Again, target a special population, measure the gap of each case gap, and shorten the gap as early as possible, and collaborate with GO or non-GO, look for all the resource from government, the non-profit organization, and also the industry. And it's very important to advocate to the public and just do it. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Yu, for your informative presentation. We will now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please do so now. Just click on the Ask a Question box located on the far left of your screen. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for. Okay, let's get started. Our first question says, thank you for your presentation and impressive case study on Taiwan's successful micro-elimination project. Did this initiative start from the hospital, government, NGO, or GO, and how long did it take to get this project started?
For the two cases of micro-elimination, it is funded by the NGO first. And after we set down the outreach screening program and the outreach screening team, we collaborate with the hospital to organize the outreach treater team to provide the professional treatment. And finally, we ask the government to join us, to allow us to treat our patients locally with the national health insurance. I think the first steps usually come from an NGO idea, and then to persuade the hospital and persuade the government that the micro-elimination is a good thing, it's the right thing that we have to do. And usually, each program from the initiation, from the idea to establish the initiation, need around 9 months.
Great, thank you. Okay, your next question is, from your list of possible target populations in resource-limited settings and limited funding budget, which would you recommend to have the most impact for our first project, and where should we start?
I think for the resource-constrained area, the most important target is high priority, is the HCV high endemic population with high risk of infection, such as hemodialysis, such as the person who injected drug, such as the prison, or such as the men with cessation manner. And the second high priority target population is the patient with advanced fibrosis. But it is very difficult to find in the patient populations who are not visiting the clinics. Therefore, we suggest that we target the first priority population at the high-risk infection groups, PWID, men with sex with men, the prisoner, and also the hemodialysis patients.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Professor Yu. And do you have any final comments for our audience?
Yes. Think about and just do it. You can make it.
Well, I'd like to thank you again for your time today and your important research. We would also like to thank LabRoots and our sponsor, Abbott Molecular, for underwriting today's educational webcast. Before we go, I'd like to thank the audience for joining us and for their questions. Any questions we did not have time for today and those submitted during the on-demand period will be addressed by the speaker via the contact information you provided at the time of registration. LabRoots will alert you via email when this webinar is available for replay. We encourage you to share that email with your colleagues who may have missed today's event. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.